Yeah. All right, so we're going to continue on with the views and stuff today. We created our nice little nav yesterday as a helper. So a question came up about our CSS that might have images as backgrounds in the CSS. So let's pick a style and see if I can get it to work first. I probably won't. We'll call it Dave style, and we'll call a background image, and we give it the URL of where it's going to come from, right? And we want it to be from assets / something. So we'll pick one of these images, like this bonfire here, okay? Bonfire dot JPEG. All right, so this is the URL of where it's going to get it from, and it should set this style, Dave, as a background image. Is that right? Any problems with that? Again,
It's been like 2 years.
I know. I don't do CSS. I don't like it. So let's move on and change. Let's add something to one of our views that might have that. So let's go to maybe our say controller, say hello. Let's add a div with a class of Dave, right? And let's just put the link inside of that just to see what happens. So let's open that guy. And there we go. See, isn't that beautiful?
Can't read your link.
Can't read my link anymore. Bad design, but it works. So the point in these style sheets is you're going to have to change them to have /assets, okay? And since Rails knows that it's an image, it will find it in the images folder automatically for you. So you don't have to put images after assets. Everything is considered an asset, and Rails determines, based on the file name, where it should go, where it should come from. All right? It's smart. Sometimes too smart. All right? Any questions on that? No, not smart enough to take over the world. And so, never mind. So let's work on some information. I think your next. Let's play around with the views some more and do some more ERB. So this is my hello view. I've done some loops. Let's try to start to build a calendar. All right. So I'm going to go to my page controller and look at my calendar link, and there's nothing in here yet. So let's look at my view and start to modify this to show my calendar instead. All right. So let's just load our calendar and make sure we see calendar. Okay, good. So a calendar is made up of cells typically, right, in a table. A table is a perfect way to display a calendar. It's tabular data. I would never make a calendar in a bunch of divs. There are some hardover people that love divs only, and they despise tables. But so let's just build a table here and start to look at the first row of the table. And what would we have in our table? 7 TD tags, right? So I'd have 7 of these guys, and I would put Sunday, Monday, etc., right, into my calendar. Got to have 3 letters each. All right. So let's see what that looks like. Beautiful, right? Isn't that nice? Nicely in a table. I'm going to put an inline style here just so I can see it, and put a border around it so I can see the styles. I can see the actual thing here. Obviously, that's at practice. You would put that in your style sheet, but I don't want to do that. So, since we're in a programming language, though, this seems like a lot of extra work. Would be a way of refactoring this so I could use some Ruby code to dynamically generate this instead. Just that information, just the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. There you go. I could put those strings for the Sunday, etc., into an array, and I would write a loop to loop through that to spit out the HTML, right? So let's do that. Let's do that first inside of ERB so you can see how painful it is. So I need to have an array. We'll call it days. And we can do the shortcut %W, which will let us do Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then I'm going to loop. And what's a good way to loop? There you go, days.each, do, and this in my pipe is going to be a singular day. And then I need an end statement for that. Now notice on my control statements again, or my straight variable statements here, these don't have equal signs, right? Because I don't want to print that to the screen. But I do want to print something that looks like this. Oops. All right, so instead of sun, I want to print out the value of day. So how would I do that inside of my table tags? Day. Right. So how do I get the value? How do I interpret that? Okay. I have to do the ERB. All right. So day is already a string. So I just need to output the value of that. I need to print it out to the screen. So let's do that. Let's delete all my guys here. Do I? Remember the dot each does that for me? Look at that. Is that beautiful? Did the same thing. My source code, let's look at my source for my calendar. Looks perfect. Everything's perfectly indented. Isn't that nice? So it printed it out based on the array. So dynamically I was able to do that. All right. Any questions on that?
That's really cool.
Isn't that cool? So that's the reason we have dynamic languages serving our web pages. I could do the same thing in PHP or ASP. So our benefit for that is I could do it in JavaScript as well. Yes. All right. So let's take this. You can see that it kind of becomes a little painful to write in control statements and things in the ERB. You have to keep having these less than signs. So where would another place be that I could put this information? And a method, right? So let's let's copy this out. Let's cut this out and create a method for that. And let's call it by calling my method. All right, I'm going to call a method called calendar. And calendar will return an information that is the calendar to play on the screen. So I'm going to put it in my page helper just to show you that I can put it somewhere else. And we'll create a method called calendar. How do I create a method? Def calendar end. And so this is where I'm going to put the same code that I wrote, but without all this ERB stuff in here. Right? So I'm going to have my days. I'm going to still do my each. Yep, I do. There we go. So what is calendar going to return, though? A string. Okay, so I need to build up a string. I can't print in my methods, but I can return a string, right? And that's why I was so hard over against you printing from your methods. So we want to create a string called whatever, cal, and we'll start it out with nothing, except that I need to include the entire table, right? So I need to start off by creating my HTML with my border in it and everything. And then I need a table row starter, right? And at the end, I'm going to conclude that by adding into it a closing table row and a closing table tag. And then I'm going to return my calendar. All right, so I have to fix this up still. But that gives me a string that is returning. Okay, so inside of here, I need to add to my calendar now the value of this string. So it's going to be a TD followed by, and let's just use the interpolation here. Remember, this is all just Ruby. And now my cal string will be built up with a bunch of TDs in it with the correct day.
What's your added? Are you going to just add it as another table inside the...
Well, I took that out. I took that out of my, where is it? My calendar. Yeah, you're right. So let's take that out. I'm going to make my calendar display everything. Correct. Good. So let's go look at that now and see what I get back. All right. Pretty cool, huh? Is that just exactly what we wrote? Got a string there. How come it's not interpreting it? Well, if I look at the source, I see that it actually has, where's my, here it is. This has ampersand LT, which is a less than sign, and then it's got ampersand quote 39, which is a quote, and a greater than sign, and so it's printing out the entities that were related to the less than signs in my table. But I wanted it to print HTML, right? So the problem with this is, and this is relatively new from 3.1 and up, they decided that they wanted to force the user to really think about what they're printing out to the HTML, because it's a security hazard if I were to print out something that I got from the user. Say they typed in a comment on my blog, and it had HTML in it that redirected them to their site. I could put JavaScript in a tag, and their site is blown away, basically. Every time you go to that page, displays a comment, redirects you to another site. So they wanted Rails developers to really think about the data that you're shipping out to the user, out to the browser. So they decided that anything that's a string that you're shipping out to the computer, if it's not in a view like this, see, notice this came across correctly, but this is returning a string from Ruby. So by default, it's considered unsafe. And so they convert it into the HTML entities instead of just the less than or equal, the less than and the slashes and things like that. So in order for that to work correctly, they force you to think about it and add another parameter to this and tell it that I know this is HTML, I know it's safe, I wrote it, I want you to print it to the screen as HTML. So there's a method called .htmlsafe. All right, let's see if that works. See if I have it right. Ta-da! So what HTMLsafe did was it undid that entity encoding and created straight raw HTML again for me. You can. So now I'm back to this nice calendar here. It's not as nicely formatted. Why? Because I'm creating it as a string and I'm concatenating it as a string. Remember, in source, if I want the source code itself to look right, what would I have to do to add to this to make it look pretty? Carriage returns, absolutely. Good example. So let's go back to my page helper where this calendar is. And there's a shortcut in RubyMine. If I hold the control key down and hover over a method like this, I can click on it and it tells me which one you want to go to. So I want to go to this calendar method in my helper page. So it pops me right into that code. Isn't that nice? So if I want that to look nice, I'd put a /n here. I might put a /n here. I would put a /n at the end of my each row, maybe one here and one here. And then if I want it indented right, how would I do that? /t for a tab, right? /t, indent my tr. And then here I want to indent twice, so I'm going to put 2 tabs. Here I'm going to indent once. And none for my table. All right, so let's just see if that works. Ta-da! Is that sweet or what? Beautiful code right there. But again, do we really care about what it looks like? Because it's automatically generated? I don't know that we care. If a user, I don't. I would care if we were doing CSS and writing static pages, because there's no way you can fix that up. But in my code, my code is nicely indented, right? And that's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm caring about. Except this is not right. Should be 2 spaces. All right, any questions on that so far? Pretty cool little calendar method there, right? So,
is it possible to do a block of embedded Ruby with those HTML files, or is it just every single line?
no, every single line.
Okay.
Yeah. There's not a block. There's not a turn ERB on, and like PHP, you can't turn it on and off. It's a little painful in that case, which is why most people do these methods. It just is a lot easier to deal with methods. Nope. 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 Let's get rid of some of this garbage here. I'm getting rid of some stuff. Relax here. There we go. We'll get rid of some more stuff while we're at it. All right, there. Now we're in 2 pages. All right, any other questions about what we did here? All right?
Okay, so here's my question.
Yep.
How would you actually get that to print an actual calendar?
That's your assignment.
There is?
Yep. So how do we do that?
Do you remember PHP? Those that were in PHP?
No.
You saved your calendar code, I hope. You have to generate. Yeah. So you're going to have trouble again. It's you're going to generate a calendar based on the day that we're at. All right. So I'm not going to do the whole calendar for you. I'm going to show you some date calculations and things to help you, but and I'll probably do the first week maybe for you, but that's it. And the rest of it's going to be yours. So we'll get to that. Any questions about this so far? No? All right. Still looking. It's not working. Looks right. Oh. You probably put commas in your %W up here. This says is like a regular expression. It says split this on spaces. Basically, split this into words. The W is a word separator. Remember regular expressions? So I don't need the commas or the quotes. Does it automatically for me?
That would have been my question.
Yep. There's several shortcuts that are similar to this. All right. All that does is create an array of each of these. So, all right. So let's go back and look at some date calculations. Do you remember how to do date and time in Ruby? Time.now. All right. So in a model view controller hierarchy like this, where would I create variables that might change? That are used in the view, but they might change. In a method, okay. Definitely in a method, but where? No, not in the helper. The controller, right? The controller is the first thing that comes in. I'm going to set some variables in my controller that my view can utilize. So in my controller, which I can get to by clicking this, I can start to set some data points. Like I can say an instance variable of time equals time.now.
Can you, just for a second, you've got in your controllers, there's 4 different ones. You're only actually using the page controller for the actual website project?
Yeah, right now I am.
So those other 3 are just garbage? Right?
They're garbage. They were fun to show you different things. But the page controller will stay. These others can actually be deleted.
Application controller doing?
That's a, notice that my page controller, what does this line say? Inherits from the application controller, all right? So the application controller is the super daddy of the page controller. And that one actually inherits from the action controller. So there's 3 levels of hierarchy here that's happening. The action controller is where all the real work is being happening. And these 2 underneath it inherit all those fun little methods from that. If I wanted something, if I wanted to set some variables or do something that every single controller needed, I would put it in the application controller. So it's just a way of separating out the data. And so there's one method in here called protect from forgery, which is set some information for every controller. And we'll talk about that later.
Dave, is there ever a reason you get into the action controller?
No, you should not, because that gets changed whenever Rails changes. So if they release 4.1, then that action controller is changed, and your whole project goes to that you should be changing. Yeah, I mean you could go look at the code, and change it, but it would make your project that much more incompatible with future updates. Even though Rails by default is incompatible with future updates anyway, it's a problem, but that's a whole nother story. Hopefully they'll be slowing down here. All right, so I have this instance variable called time, And since I've saved it as an instance variable, that variable is available in my view. So I can go to my calendar view and I could print out that value. I could say, print out my at time. All right, so that will work. And it prints out the date and time as a long string here. All right? Any questions on that? Instance variables in the controller are available in the view, and I can utilize those to control what my page looks like. So every time I reload this, notice the time changes.
There's a date on the first part of that.
There is. There's a date right here, isn't there? So every time I reload the page, we're getting close to where they're going to shut off my site here, right? So 11:08, we'll see what happens. Let's go look at the date functions in ruby-lang.org, the documentation here. And we'll look at date. 5 minutes. This, I know they're trying to make some money for this site, but they put their ads right up here, and what I'm searching for is on their site. This irritates me. They should put the ads on the side, that'd be fine. They're trying to trick us into clicking this. Every time we click, this site gets paid, which is fine. It's an open source site, they got to pay for something, but that's really irritating. So I have to go all the way down here underneath the ads to get to the documentation. It's pretty sneaky, yeah. I don't like it.
Because it pops up after you try to click on something and moves everything down the page.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it pops up first, and then the search results come in later. So, yeah, very sneaky. I don't like it.
Well, the search results load, and then you go to click on something.
Yeah, and then
the ad
right, and then the ad. Yeah, the ad sometimes comes in later.
You get redirected to that website.
Your wife wants to know why you're looking for dates in Washington.
Right. What are you doing? Yeah, not a good idea. All right, so we can start to use some of these date objects or the time objects and look at the year that it is and things like that. So there's some methods, like I could say at time dot year. Let's see what that does. I might have to create it as a date object instead. So I lost my cowboy.
No, it's on the next one up.
Sorry, thank you. All right, so I have 2013. So this is 2013. How do you think I might get the month then? A month, all right. So let's put pilot on the end. No, I want to have at time dot month.
Will you at least have a space there?
I will. I'll have one space. So 10, that's not very useful. How would I get the day, the month as a word?
Do you have to put them into an array, or is there one that already has it as a list?
The date object itself is an array as well.
Yeah. Here it is. There's a method called string format time, and this is very similar to PHP and C. This actually comes from the C language. So I can look at, I want the month of the year, or I want the full month name. So this %B is what I want. So I'm going to call this method with a %B on the date time that I have here. All right. So let's do that. I'm going to call at time.strftime, and I'm going to have a quotes of a %B, and let's see what I get back now. October, sweet. Isn't that nice? See, I've written your whole calendar for you. It's just amazing how fast that is, right? So using those types of functions, I can get at specific pieces of data that I need, right? The year, the date, the month that I'm using, the day of the week, etc. Yes?
How come you can't just do the at time dot year? One.
Okay, so dot like this.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's.
Follow it on, by the way.
You can't. So what is, if I do at time, what type of object is this? It's a time object, okay? If I call dot year on it, what is this now?
Year.
An integer of 2013. An integer doesn't have a method called month, right? So when you chain these together, you have to remember that each time I have a dot changes what is here. So time.year is now an integer. Integer.month doesn't work, so it'll crash.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So using this, I want you to print out what day of the week it is, all right? So print out the day of the week using this string ftime in the documentation here. So look that up. I'll pause. Yes?
Yeah, and
So let's do that. Recording all the time? You got to be kidding me.
That's awesome.
Sweet. Nice.
You should edit part of that
Skip
out.
it anyway.
Wow. All right, sorry about that, guys. Well, here's, let's get the day of the week. So we're going to call at time.str ftime, and we're going to pass in the percent %w. And let's see what we get.
You're not recording.
It is 11:12. There you go. Look, the internet is down. So I have to go fix this in the settings. Oh my
It
God,
doesn't work like that for nothing.
that's insane. See, look, they reset me even while I'm lecturing. That's just so nice of them to do that. All right. So now I get a day of the week of 4.
You can't do at time dot day.
Why did this come out so bizarrely? Well, I want a number.
Can you do
No, you still have it on the year.
Yeah, I know, but it shouldn't come out like that.
2013?
It shouldn't come out like that. Oh, that's why. See, that's right. No, thank you. Good. All right. So the day of the week is 4. So if I count Sunday as 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Today's Thursday. So bada boom, bada bing. That works pretty good, right?
Oh, I see.
All right. Everybody with me so far? We're about out of time. But let me go and utilize this information now and modify my calendar. So I can pass that type of information to my calendar method, right? So let's pass in the, let's set a variable just so you can see it. Day of week equals time, and I'll pass in the day of the week here to my method. And on my method now, I need to receive that as a variable. We'll call it day of the week on this side. And I can use that. That's a number now that's going to represent 0 through 6, right? So for my second row, or the first row, first week of the month. Wow, can't talk, can't type. I need to print out blank cells up until I get to the first day of the week, right? I need to have blank cells so that when I finally print the 1, it's going to be on Thursday. Does everybody see why I'm doing that? I'm going to when I draw a calendar. When I have my calendar here, and I've got Sunday, Monday, etc., going all the way through here, I need to have some blank spaces before I get to Thursday. And Thursday, I'm going to put a 1 in the Thursday box. So I need some blank cells here, up to the point that the day of the week is. So how can I utilize that number to help me print that some number of blank cells? Pardon me? No, because the first, well, we haven't got there yet. But if October 1st was on a Thursday, yeah, you're right. If October 1st was on a Thursday, then I would have to have spaces up until that point. Good point. I haven't got to that point yet. So how would I print out some number of blank spaces to get me to the 4th, the Thursday? Right. How many blank spaces do I need? Okay, day of week. Good. I can use that. Day of week dot times due. And that gives me, that's funny.
Could we just do 7 minus day of week? Instead, I mean, you know it's always going to be 7, so just
Yeah, you can. You can do that too. Let's do it this way to start with. So I need to add to my calendar. First of all, I need to add a new row, right? So I'm going to add a row above this. I'm going to add a TD, open TD. No, sorry, open TR. And then I need to close that at the end of this row. And then I'm going to add some blank TDs in here, right? And in order to have a blank cell, I need to have something in it, otherwise it will collapse. NBSP, also put a non-breaking space in there. And that will print some number of blank cells, right? So let's just see how that goes for now. I need more than that. Undefined method times for 4 as a string. Okay, so that string that came back from string ftime is a string value, right? So this is a string, not a number. So how do I convert that into a number? Where would I put that? As I create it is the best way. So I'm going to put it at the end of this, right? All right, so I've got problems at the end here, but at least I've got 4 spaces, and we'll play around with this more on Monday. And Desiree's right. The first of the month is what I want to deal with. I need to have 2 blank spaces before I start drawing my 1 for October. October 1st lands on a Tuesday, so we have to figure out where that is. All right, that's enough for today. Any questions?